And joining me now is another special guest, American economist and professor of applied economics at the Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Steve Hanke. Professor joins me. Appreciate your joining us, Professor Hanke. You've been tweeting a lot on the war that's been escalating by the day in West Asia. I want to focus for a moment on the economics of war, or what we are seeing happening at the moment. One report suggests, Professor Hanke, that the United States might have spent as much as $1.43 billion in just the 72 hours alone on the war. What do you see as the implications, first for the US, and then we'll talk about the global economy and oil in particular. But do you believe the US now is in a position to sustain a prolonged war?
Well, if the answer to that is yes and no. Yes, but it's going to cost a lot of money. I think you set the thing up perfectly. Wars cost a tremendous amount in terms of blood and treasure. We've already lost some U.S. military people, and we're going to lose more. And the cost is going to be fantastic. And the U.S. is in not a good position from a fiscal budget point of view, because the budget is already in a deficit of a little over 6% of GDP.
So what do you see are the immediate implications of that for the United States if Donald Trump, as he says he will, intends to prosecute this war for weeks on end?
I think there are economic implications. The economic implications are all negative, of course. Look at what's going on today. The oil price is surging because the Strait of Hormuz is closed for all practical purposes. And the stock markets all around the world, including in India, are down big time. So that's another cost, by the way, that we're talking about trillions of dollars being lost in the stock market due to the fact that we have this war going on. So that's the economic side. The political side, I think that the Republican Party, which of course is led by President Trump, will take big losses in the midterm elections. So there's a political cost too. I think the political cost for the Republicans will be severe.
You're saying that irrespective of the fact, if Donald Trump is able to effect a regime change, he would well turn around and claim it's all been worth it, both the economic and political costs. What if he's able to effect a real regime change in Iran?
I think the chances of regime change are almost zero. And the reason I say that, if you look at the scholarly work that's been done on regime changes, the United States, since World War II, has attempted about 70 regime changes, and 61% of those have failed completely. They have not been able to change regimes, and the remaining 39% have been left with a complete mess. So the regime changes are a complete disaster. The historic record is not good. So the chances of creating a regime change and having stability in the Middle East, I would say, are slim to none. So that's a pipe dream. If you believe any of that, you believe in the tooth fairy.
That's strong.
And let me point out that your viewers should look at Lindsay O'Rourke's 2018 treatise. It was published by Cornell University Press. It's called Covert Regime Change. And it goes through every one of these attempts the United States has made to engage in regime changes and how they fail.
Okay. Can I for a moment then turn back to the economy? As you said, global oil prices are taking a huge hit. Iran strikes on Dubai and Abu Dhabi are affecting the entire region. Saudi Arabia's Ras Tunara oil refinery, one of the kingdom's largest, has temporarily halted operations. So The Straits of Hormuz are for all practical purposes closed at the moment, so that's having an effect, including on us here in India. Given that, do you believe that that should put pressure on the US administration and indeed on Netanyahu to find an early resolution? Do you believe that that the economic factors will eventually influence the trajectory of this war at some stage or the other?
No, and the reason I say that is that the war is largely driven by Israel. You have to remember that we have an alliance. The U.S. has an alliance, if you want to call it that way, with Israel. It's an odd alliance because the big superpower is the United States, but the one that gives the orders for action in the Middle East is Israel, and that's because of the Israeli lobby. The Israeli lobby buys and sells the politicians in the United States, and they dance to the tune of the Israel lobby. And for the scholarly work on that, let me refer you to the famous 2007 book by John Mersheimer, famous professor at University of Chicago, and Stephen Walt, a distinguished professor at Harvard University. That book's called The Israel Lobby in U.S. Foreign Policy. It's a scholarly book. It's not a polemic book. And it leads you through how the system actually works. So
you're telling me, Professor, irrespective of the economic costs, the Israel lobby in the United States, at the Congress, in the White House, will continue to prosecute this war, irrespective of the economic costs that countries will suffer if global crude prices continue to soar, if markets remain volatile. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Therefore, in terms of where we go from here, is the question. The question that you're raising today surely will be being raised by others in the United States about the economic and political costs of war. Surely those questions at some stage should result in some kind of a pushback.
Well, of course, there will be a pushback, but whether it will reverse the course of events in the Middle East, we don't know. And remember, we're talking now and speculating about how things might go, but we are in the fog of war. And once you're in the fog of war, it's very hard to predict what course the war actually will take. But what I'm simply saying is that we have to realize the process and the decision making that goes on, and the orders, in short, come from Jerusalem, not Washington D.C. That's the main point, and these are supported by the lobby. They pay.
You don't think the public out there will be worried with rising costs, with inflation, with the impact this war is having, as you said, on the fiscal situation? Surely Donald Trump will, as a politician, have to recognize that, Professor, at some stage or the other?
No, what I said earlier, the public polling is already negative on the war. The Americans don't want to be in this war. They have a thumbs down on that. So they're already negative. And the cost will go up because for every $10 increase in the per barrel in the price of oil, it adds about 25 cents a gallon to gasoline that you put in your car. And of course, that gets into the affordability issue. And when people have to start paying more, if it goes to $100, the price of oil, we'll be adding over $1.25 per gallon to the gasoline price.
Right.
So people they fill their car with gasoline, every week or every few days, and they don't like it if the price is up. So they go negative.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that this is all the cost of war. That you can add them up in all kinds of ways. They're economic costs, but they're also political costs. And I think
Yes.
that Trump will pay, and the Republicans will pay a big political cost for the war.
Okay. I'm going to leave it there, Professor. You've done some very plain speaking, which one always appreciates on this show. Thank you very much there from joining us from your vantage point there in Baltimore. Professor Hanke, thanks for joining us on News Today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. Good to be with you.